Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. I hope that you are taking care of yourselves this week. I know we've had some wild weather out there, especially down south. Prayers go out to everybody that has been impacted by Hurricane Melissa. And so, with that said, I do want to go right into some announcements and then talk a little bit about our show today. So, first things first, the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White can be featured on Spotify and all of your main social media channels. In addition to that, you can follow me on social media. Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. Also, I invite you guys to please check out, whenever you get a chance, my books, blogs, and to schedule me for your next speaking or coaching event. Speaking of books, I'm thankful I hit a milestone of being able to write 70 independent works, books, workbooks, journals, devotionals, all that cool stuff. And I do this because I think that, if you've never written a book before, it's definitely an outlet. It's something that you can do to kind of spread good love, good energy out there to those that have hearts that are able to receive you. And I think that I also do it because I know all of us, we only live once on this side, right, before eternity. And so I think that, I've heard people say so many times, like, you want to make sure that you give out as much as possible before you are no longer with us. And, you have all these gifts and things built up inside of you. I didn't want to be that person. So I continue to produce. And I'm so thankful for every single one of you guys that appreciate me, and you've made space for me to be able to produce, to partner with you, to write with you, to be on your stages, and whatnot. It's been a wonderful journey, and just thankful to God Almighty for the opportunities that I've had. So with that said, you can check out the books. They're on Amazon. Some of my books are on my website. And then also, if you're wanting to schedule me for a event, please reach out to me directly. You can reach out via email, or you can go to indiawhiteconsulting@gmail.com. Or there's a link on my website, www.india-white.com, where you can go to schedule for a future event. I'm excited about these events, and I saw so many of you guys rocking it out at NCTM and NCSM. Kudos to all of you. And thank you to everybody in the math space for the work that you continue to do to mold the area of math. As you know, we need the support, seeing our kids are not passing or they're not at the rate of proficiency, right? Very concerning. But my heart goes out to every single person that has really given their all and that has just been a part of the movement in the math space in our nation. And so with that, speaking of events, we've got the Making Math Moments virtual conference coming up pretty soon in a couple of weeks. So if you guys can, go ahead and register. I do have a session there. Thank you so much to John and the team for that amazing opportunity. Those are some wonderful people doing a big work. And it's just a high honor to be able to have fun with them. I'm looking forward to talking about grit and how we can continue to spread the message of grit in the math space and beyond. Grit has started to really take off. This is not a personal bias of mine. Grit is where it's at, but not just the word grit, just the cliche grit. People want to understand what grit is so that they can win in life and finish the race, even in the math space. And I find that in the math space, there's so much anxiety. There's a lot of fear. People have a love-hate relationship with math. And I find that one of the effective ways, backed by research and backed by effective practices, is helping them to overcome and cultivate grit. And so I'm super excited to see the work of grit grow and to see where it's going to go, and how it's going to help so many families, not only across our nation, but across the globe. So please join us at the Making Math Moments conference. I believe the dates are November 14th through the 17th, I think. So join us there. I've had this workshop out also, grassroots workshops. I remember when Robert first approached me and gave me this opportunity. I didn't know if it would even be looked at one time, because I know this platform, grassroots workshops platform, is more for like the effective practices and things like that, which is cool. But it could be very mathy, and grit is one of those things that it can apply to any subject area, but definitely in math. So I'm thankful that I was approached to help you guys out with the little mini workshop on grit. So when you get a chance, go ahead and support Robert, support us, and visit the grassroots workshops. And the title of that workshop is How to Harness Grit to Help Students Thrive. So if you're really trying to make a difference for your kiddos and you really want to understand grit and you're open-minded, then take a look at it. You really got to keep an open mind when you're looking at these things. And I guess that's why I'm so big on grit, because if you don't have an open mind, then you fall into the category of maybe having a fixed mindset, allegedly, possibly, right? And so that's an area of focus. And so with that said, keep me posted if you do check out that website on how that workshop, how it's helped you. There's also the Grit Academy. There's still tutoring going on and different learning opportunities. So whatever you do, just keep me posted on how I can be of help and how I can help you. So with that said, one of the last shows I did, I was so thankful we were able to come on here and talk about our new book on effective teaching practices that every teacher must know. Wonderful book, wonderful authors in the book. And so that was really neat. Thank you to everybody that has supported that work. I since did launch another book on grit, a grit workbook for mentees, like so people that you're mentoring. There's also the grit workbook for mentors if you're trying to mentor students or just mentor, just different people that you're working with. And so speaking of grit, I want to continue this narrative of grit because I want to now focus on having gritty resilience. The reason why I even spoke about grit was it was about resilience. But nobody's really like, we talk about resilience, but grit is just so much more succinct. It makes sense. It flows. And people that are gritty, they get it. So athletes are gritty. So if you're a former athlete, if you play sports now, you play ball now, whatever, you're gritty. If you are a fitness trainer, you're gritty. If you are a surgeon or nurse, you're gritty. Like it's in every area. If you're a lawyer, judge, you're gritty, right? Law enforcement, gritty. Everybody, clergy, everyone that I can call that is amazing in their field, that is really making a big difference in life, they're gritty. So I want to talk with you guys, especially in this humbling time, this sober time of people dealing with catastrophes, about grit and how to have gritty resilience. As you know, my acronym for grit is having great resilience in time. And so I want to talk a little bit about how can you build that resilience, and so I want to first give you my love, my support on what I think you need for building grit. And you might be asking, why are you always getting on here, girlfriend, and talking to us about grit? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't want to see us lose hope for people. I have a heart for students. I have a heart for teachers. I have a heart for school principals, district leaders. So I'm not doing work to make a difference so that we can start seeing achievement gaps grow. We can start seeing results. And so with that said, I want to talk about these tips about building resilience in students, teachers, or whoever. And this comes from my heart. First off, you have to remember the end goal. Why are you in this thing? Like, why are you either in education or in your field of interest? Why are you there? Is it just to provide for your family? Maybe you're starting that way. And I can't knock that. I mean, especially with things that we've been, just facing overall in our economy, I can see, if you're like, listen, I'm just trying to build my career, then that's fine. But also keep a growth mindset. I think in this time in the world, we have seen so much chaos. We've seen negativity. We've heard things. People have these disgusting fixed mindsets, and some of these people are in high seats just overall and across the world, making decisions from fixed mindsets, and it's not helping. And so, in order for you to combat that, and you're trying to build resilience, you have to keep a growth mindset. Whether that's through keeping positive affirmations, learning how to journal, loving on yourself. I'm going to say, we have to remember our worth, our self worth, and our value. And we have to make sure we're loving on ourselves before we give out to everyone else. And so I hope that, if you're really trying to build resilience, that you can build that growth mindset. Also, speaking positively, which goes along with the positive affirmations, right? There's one thing to look yourself in the mirror and say, I am powerful, I am great, all this stuff. But there's another thing to just constantly keep that going in the forefront of your mind, where you're just a positive person. I find that people that are not as positive, they have jaded souls. They have been through so much, and they treat people like dirt because their soul is broken. You don't have to be that way. You can speak positively, you can think positively, you can love yourself. I think we really, in this season, we need to focus on more love, and support, so that we can sleep at night, and that we know that, whenever we part from this earth, we've done good deeds. I would hate to be in a predicament that I've succeeded, I've done all this stuff, but in the back of my mind or in my heart, I know I was a vile person, or I just didn't do good deeds to people. I stole from people, or I did wrongs. Like, I would hate to be that person. What was it all for? If we go and we have our final breaths, and then we look back on our life and we realize we weren't really positive. We didn't speak positive to people. We were curt. We were cutting. We were evil, like just cold, calloused. What do we get from that? How does that bring joy? And it's something I've got to call it out, because we need more love in the world. We need to do deeds that we know can help us sleep at night and give us a clear conscience, because nobody gets by. Why are we doing these things? You know, we need to focus on how can we be more resilient and have a more positive outlook on life and on the way we operate in life, so that we can contribute greatness to the world. I am big on empathy. I am big on compassion. Um, and I just don't understand how certain people operate, and they're just cold. I don't get, or they're just negative. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, I digress. The next point, call a pal. Who is your system? Who's your accountability partner? Call him. If you don't have one, find one. I find that your Facebook strangers can be great. So, um, you know, find someone, call a pal, someone that, can hold you accountable. Call clergy, someone in the ministry, someone that you trust in the ministry, you know, um, or even meditate and focus is my next point. I think we need to do more of this, getting calm and focusing on our purpose, and focusing on how can we take better care of ourselves and those around us, because I don't think we wake up intentionally wanting to hurt other people. I think people that are in that state, it's because they have broken souls. They're damaged. And so hurt people hurt other people. And it's my goal for everybody watching and listening on my podcasts that you leave uplifted, and that you can be more whole and more healed. I don't know, maybe that should be a life coaching session. But I think we need to do better. And I think we should meditate and focus. We need to see why we're placed on this earth, and see how can we contribute and how can we love others. Education is about love. It's not about these fads and all these cool little clicky things that we come up with, even though it's cool, right? It's not about that. We have been given a task to love kids, children, uh, to uplift teachers and administrators and principals. And it's a high cost, it's a high price, and not everybody is worthy, right? So if you're finding yourself in that place where you can contribute and give back, I do ask that you get quiet and figure out why are you doing the work that you're doing? And are you really helping people? And are you helping everyone? Another thing is, are you supporting others or are you destroying anybody? And so if you feel like you have to get ahead by destroying someone else, I think you should also revisit your internal compass and figure out what happened to me that I feel so broken that I would have to pull someone else down, pull something else down. You know what I mean? And so I'm just giving this to you guys just to encourage you and just to say, whatever you do, just continue to build people, continue to strengthen. I feel like every single person is like a part of God's garden, and we all have different things that we can contribute. And, if God didn't want us in the garden, we wouldn't be here, but we're here. So we have to make it work. So, with that said, I want to transition and talk a little bit about what I found on the web when it came down to resilience and how we can build resilience, what is resilience, and things like that. So, let's look
to modern day stresses and strains. Our resilience has helped us to bounce back when things haven't gone to plan. But what does resilience look like? People who are more resilient are likely to be better at solving problems, ask for help when they need it, and have a can-do attitude. People who are less resilient are likely to struggle under pressure, experience symptoms of anxiety and depression, and often feel deflated and hopeless when things go wrong.
a little bit about resilience and how you can bounce back. And like I just said, I love being African American because we have had to be a resilient people. I think everybody that you meet that is African American has a story. And we have learned to bounce back, from different hardships, from our ancestors that have gone through so much. We have learned to pick up the torch and do our part in contributing positivity to the world, and to also, and I think another thing African Americans are still kind of doing more of is displaying more love and forgiveness because of some of the wrongdoings, that we as a people overall have had to go through. We've had to be resilient. We've had to be the best, and we've had to prove ourselves. And we've had to do it with a smile on our face and a great spirit. And sometimes, you know, it can just get really tiring and daunting to have to always have to perform. Um, so I want to give a shout out to everybody, of African American descent that gets what I'm saying, that has had to be resilient. And I just wanted to kind of also encourage everybody else and say that every single one of us has what it takes to be resilient and to bounce back and to have positivity. So no matter what you're facing, I want to encourage you to be resilient and to know that the best is always yet to come. Things always work out for you. Um, and I would also say this, that if you're in a situation, see, there's one thing to have scenarios, whether you're in education or wherever, where you're having to bounce back because of adversities. But then there's another situation, and this is where people were a little, they didn't quite understand how grit and resilience played when it came down to roles of injustice. And I will say this, when you're walking through the halls of injustice, that's a different game. You also have to have strategy, not just resilience. You have to also have strategy. Grit is not a tool that you use to put burdens on people. It's not a tool to use to justify the oppressions of people, to say, oh, that they just need to get over it, work harder. If they are in an oppressed situation, whether it's academically, emotionally, financially, That's oppression. That's abuse. That's not you're given a situation and oh, you just have to be resilient through it. That is a different conversation and a different scenario that we all have to visit to figure out how can we eliminate and eradicate the oppressive things that have taken place that continue to go on. Right now, financially speaking, there are a lot of different things going on that are oppressing. Um, and so people have had to have strategy. So for those folks out there, you're listening and you're dealing with kiddos that are dealing with injustices and oppressions, please understand that they're not defined, their grit levels are not defined by the oppression and all of these different hindrances and limitations. It makes me think of Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay. What a gritty man, but he was oppressed and he eventually lost his life because there of the hatred. He could not beat the hatred, the system of hatred. He could not beat it. And sometimes our children and teachers and leaders of diverse backgrounds, especially, are exposed to levels of hatred that they cannot beat. And there's no way that we should look our nose down at people that are dealing with these different systems and say, oh, they just got to get over it and get some grit. No, we need to change what's going on, change the trajectory of whatever system, if it's not benefiting all learners, and figure out how can we establish parity and establish hopes so that people can be supported no matter what. And so I say that I digress on that because people would come to me about grit with concern, saying, what about diverse background students or, marginalized students in poverty? What about them in their scenario? That means they need extra supports, right? They need resources. They need things to be allocated to them that couples with their grit. It's not enough to just say, oh, they were denied this and this was taken from them and this is that, this was stolen from them. So why don't they just get it together and just overcome? Really? So, I think that we have to start looking in the mirror, looking at the financial scenarios. Because if you want to see justice and parity, look at the financials. There's two things I always say. If you want to see like people really being resilient and winning in that system, you will see structural change, operational changes, fiscal changes. But if you look at an organization or you look at a school and there's still not representation at the top, or if there's representation at the top, do they have a voice? Are they supported or are they muted? What's going on? Because you can have your little one person, your little, some people call it a token. You can have that, but do you have representation where they are amplified? If not, you're not doing anything different, right? The thing that hurts is we have these systems, we have these things, and we'll say, look, we're making change, but are we really? Look at your data. Look to see if you really wanted to do this work and you really wanted to change, take a risk on somebody that is diverse. Use the people on your team already that are diverse. Why do you have to go and keep finding new talent? Use the ones that are there. Support the ones that are there. Figure out how to grow that, right? Figure out how to grow that teacher, how to grow that student. Why does the same 2-3 people always get selected? Why not? Why not spice it up? You don't take from another learner or from another educator because you want to, utilize the talent that you already have. It's just something I want you to think about as you're trying to build grit. I would also say too that resilience is key to anything that you really wanted to fight for in life. So I was able to find something from Harvard where it talks about life and it talks about how. So they're talking about 3 strategies that we can use to find a way when you're feeling stressed, burned out, anxious, or sad. So here we go. Harvard, it says, what is resilience? It is a psychological response that helps you to adapt to life's difficulties and seek a path forward through challenges. Okay. And then it says it's flexible mindset that helps you to adapt, think critically, and stay focused on your values and what matters the most, says Luana Marquez. Okay. Understanding depression. That's very interesting. They're talking about depression and things like that. And I think that's like another. So they're talking to us about some things you can do. For one, whenever you're going through resilience, and that's powerful too, to understand depression, because if you understand that, you can walk through having a positive growth mindset. It's powerful. Emotional part of your brain versus the thinking part of your brain. So if you're asking for a raise and your brain says you won't get it, think about the things you've done in your job that are worthy of the raise. You'll slow down an emotional response and shift your mindset from anxious to action. Then approach what you want. If you're anxious or stressed, burned out, you tend to avoid things that make you uncomfortable, then that way you feel stuck. It can make you feel stuck. So get out of your comfort zone and take a step toward the thing that you want in spite of fear. Be careful with that. Make sure that you're in a make sure that you're in a situation that is conducive for you. Because I think it's it's good to say, yeah, let's look at what we want and things like that, but we also have to be realistic, um, especially if you're a person of diverse backgrounds. All right, let's keep going. So now this says your actions align with your values. So stress happens when your actions are not aligned with your values. The things that matter to you the most can bring you joy. So if you feel stressed, if you care about the most, if you care most about your family, but you can't be there for them, then that makes you stressed out. Okay. So tips for success. Let's listen. So it says getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Ooh, I am guilty. Okay. Getting to 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Following a healthy diet. Love this. Such as a Mediterranean style diet. Love it. It says aiming for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensive activities, working out, strength training. If you drink alcohol, I don't drink, but it says limiting yourself to no more than one drink per day, not smoking, staying socially connected, right? By phone, social media, text. And then they're talking about different things that you can do. These are the authors. Very sweet of them. Thank you, Harvard, for sharing. So I thought that was pretty cool that they shared that with us. And so that we're doing everything we can to really model resilience, and that we can be gritty no matter what. So I appreciate you guys joining me on this show where we're talking about grit and resilience. Let's be more real with ourselves, and let's really just try to knock out why we're here. I am excited about just some of the things I've been doing. I just wrote a grit devotional, 365 days for grit, and it's like a little devotional / prayer journal. So if you're really wanting to take grit personally and kind of have a personal search, I welcome you to find that grit journal. It's on Amazon, so you can look at my name or whatever, and you can find the grit devotional, grit prayer journal on there. So with that said, guys, thanks so much for joining me on the Let's Get Gritty podcast. I was so honored to be on this podcast with you guys again and again. I want to remind you that you can find this podcast on Spotify and all of my main social media channels. And you can also follow me on social media. You can also check out the website, www.india-white.com, for books, blogs, or to schedule me for a speaking event. Make sure you check us out at the Making Math Moments conference, and also check out the Grassroots workshop about grit, and continue to spread the word. I know you guys are starting to plan your calendars and things like that. So I'm here to support you, however. And again, thank you so much for joining me on the Let's Get Gritty podcast. Until next time, stay gritty. See ya.